Last time on Dungeon Fighter Online. To fight against fate, Bakal sought out the Water of Life. Legends told the Water of Life could grant immortality and ruin Hilder's plans once and for all. However, it was not so easy. Hilder was already several steps ahead of Bakal, and she already mustered the forces of the Apostles to stop Bakal from progressing. Finally understanding that his plans were foiled, Bakal decided to escape Pandemonium with Luke's help. Hilder always seemed to be several steps ahead of Bakal. She could predict almost every single one of his moves. Against such a monster, can Bakal truly prevail, or is his fate predetermined after all? Let's find out. The tower was truly a path to another world, Bakal thought. It seemed to be connected to a land known as Empyrean of planet Arad. The art of making a path between space and time was probably only possible by Luke. As long as Luke did not reveal the path to Empyrean, Bakal should be relatively safe from harm. But one thing did catch his eye when he traveled through the tower. There were several dead bodies floating around in the tower. It was because Luke wanted to test the functionality of his tower, to make sure nothing could go awry, he realized. Since that discovery, Bakal started calling the tower the Castle of the Dead. In the lands of Empyrean, there was no one that was his equal. Bakal became the supreme ruler of Empyrean. It was an easy feat, for there were no other apostles to oppose him this time around. Not too long afterward, Bakal noticed a connection between Arad and Pandemonium. The large Arad continent stood on the bottom, and Pandemonium was stuck upside down on the top. Pandemonium, as was previously mentioned, did not move for decades. Taking advantage of that fact, Luke managed to construct a tower connecting the two planets. So this is the planet Hilder wishes to sacrifice, Bakal said to himself. He knew now what he must do. He had to protect this planet. He could not let everything Hilder planned to pass. Her final objective was surely the Arad continent. Bakal knew he had to seal the Castle of the Dead. It was the only connection to Empyrean from Pandemonium, and although blocking it was but a temporary solution, it would at least buy Bakal some time. But there was another thing he knew he must do. He had to eliminate the use of magic entirely from Empyrean. Hilder was a great mage, and as an apostle, she had tremendous power as a mage. But this poses a problem. How could someone with weaker magic possibly fight against someone with stronger magic? Short answer, they can't. To add to the problem, on the off chance Hilder appeared on Empyrean, Bakal's only chance to detect her would be to trace for any magical activity. If everyone used magic, Bakal would have no chance at finding her. Hilder wishes for the apostles' deaths, but much like how Cain could not kill me, neither could she, Bakal said. Recalling a line from a legend, Bakal recited, "Only a blade honed by suffering will pierce our hearts and return us to the great will." Bakal continued, "So far, the legends have all spoken true. Hilder is most likely planning on training these weak mortals. Given enough time and strength, these mortals might gain the insight needed to kill the apostles one day. But even if it was possible, it would take centuries, perhaps even a millennium, to accomplish such a deed." Then, a thought struck Bakal. This seems to sync a little too well for Hilder's plans. She might have allowed me to come to Empyrean after all. By giving these mortals the suffering known as the Dragon King, they would surely rise up and become strong. Strong enough for revenge, strong for freedom. Yes, I see it clearly now. I would be playing into her hands like this. After a brief moment of silence, Bakal grew determined. Then things must not go as she wishes. I must find the hole within her plan. A plan as grand as hers is sure to have a weak point, and that will be my chance. It was then that Bakal flew up in the sky. He spoke with growing resolve. No one would hear him at the height he was flying at, but that mattered not. "Weaklings, I shall bring you a suffering you have never imagined before, so you grow strong. If you have potential and pride, then it may just be possible. Your strength must exceed Hilder's expectations. Only then we can create an inside factor that will topple her grand scheme." Bakal took another breath before continuing. "I will believe in you more than she does. I shall sacrifice myself for this pursuit. But I know this. Defeating Hilder cannot be done by relying on power like magic. Another power is needed. and you must find this power on your own. And thus, magic was forevermore banned from Empyrean. The 500 years of the Dark Ages of Empyrean have finally begun. Sometime in the distant future, Meister Teneb was in deep thought. He was one of the 7 great meisters, titles given to the greatest mechanics of their current generation. He can come up with solutions to complex problems. His genius was such that he became the great leader of the current meisters. But there was one problem that he could just not find the solution to, no matter how deeply he thought of it. Meister Hilder. Who in the world was she? How could she use the fabled magic? Is she even Empyrean? Her many ideas might not have been of this world. Now that he thought back on it, Hilder was always considered the best. Of the 7 great meisters, she was the one who truly shined. Every time research fell into a slump, she could come up with a new revolutionary idea. Honestly, if she did not exist, then the Great Guy Blog project just would not succeed. Teneb seriously wondered where her genius originated from. Every time he asked her, she would reply with a single word: meditation. Teneb did not quite believe her. Meditation? The hell does that have to do with science? Deep down inside, Teneb blamed himself for doubting her capabilities. Maybe she truly was a genius. Her talents were not bringing about his jealousy and his respect, but another feeling which he seriously tried to deny: love. Because of this, he felt guilt towards his lover, Jenny, and kept trying to convince himself that Hilder's talents were just false. In order to finally put his mind at ease, he decided to spy on her. So he sought out to find her true identity. He carefully attached a few micro-robots onto her, but what he discovered was not something he expected at all. Far from it. Magic. She could use magic. Magic was only written down as a fable in several historical documents. Those documents stated that at one point in time, magic existed. But ever since Bakal reigned upon their lands, magic became a thing of the past. Nothing more than a legend. So how was she using it so nonchalantly? Teneb finally left his lab and walked around listlessly. He lit his cigarette. It's been a decade since his last one, but he decided he deserved a single smoke after this ridiculous reveal. It's funny how the first time I go outside in months, the first thing I do is breathe in nicotine filled with smoke. He laughed with self-derision. It was then that Teneb heard a voice from behind. "No need to worry, Meister Teneb," it said slowly yet deliberately. "She is not of this world, as you had guessed." The voice came out of nowhere and frightened Teneb. It sounded powerful and overwhelming. Despite being struck with fear, Teneb still managed to turn around to face the shadow. What are you?" The shadow looked at Teneb without answering. Then it suddenly asked, "Did you ever see the mirage of an upside-down city before?" Before Teneb could answer, the shadow continued. "A long time ago, a splendid scientific community bloomed on a planet known as Terra. But after a certain incident, the planet Terra blew up. A city of Terra managed to survive and floated in space for a long time. That piece of Terra was eventually known as Pandemonium. And Pandemonium has been attached to the planet of Arad for a few hundred years now, upside down." Teneb was startled. What was this about? Every Empyrean knew the legends of Pandemonium. Although the mirage of the upside-down city was never confirmed to be Pandemonium, they all had their suspicions. Then it clicked for Teneb. "So what are you trying to tell me? Hilder is a Pandemonian, and that she's delivering the technology of the old Terra planet to aid us in our current technological endeavors? You aren't called the leader of the 7 meisters for show," the shadow said. He seemed impressed. "Think of her name." Teneb stared at the shadow. Think of her name. Nothing to lose, he supposed. Hilder. Hilder? Teneb gasped. The truth finally dawned on him. The legends of the apostles were famous even in Empyrean. Many blamed the apostles for Bakal's tyranny, for it was them that forced Bakal to flee to Empyrean. But many more were hoping for the apostles to come down and defeat Bakal for them. It formed into a sort of faith within the hearts of the Empyreans. "Apostle, why does she help us?" Teneb asked the shadow. The aid of an apostle was a blessing and a surprise, but Teneb could not determine the motivation behind Hilder's help. What did she hope to gain? Unless this was all for altruistic reasons. It is so that you can defeat me before you grow too powerful, the shadow said. Me? Teneb's eyes sharpened. He finally noticed. The shadow was actually Bakal all along. I was stupid for not noticing, Teneb said. You are Bakal, the tyrant. If you are here to kill me, get it over with. Why waste both of our times? Also, if you were here to find out the locations, you can forget about it. My lips are sealed. Teneb gloated for a moment, but he knew it was useless. If Bakal knew Teneb's whereabouts, then he definitely knew the locations of the other meisters, and the Guy Blog Project too. You will definitely die, Bakal said slowly, but not immediately. I will not hear. Teneb began, but Bakal quickly interrupted. I need you to stop the Guy Blog Project. What? Teneb then laughed. It was all too much. First, his discovery regarding Hilder, and then this? To think Bakal was this mad? While laughing, the thought of talking with Bakal all casually like this in the first place made him laugh even harder. But while he was laughing, he was seriously thinking something was afoot. If Bakal knew about him, about the project, why come and talk? Why not just kill everyone and everything? That would easily end the Guy Blog Project. If the Guy Blog Project completes, Bakal said. Teneb stopped laughing. I might just die. But trust me when I say, I cannot die like this. Your kind did not come strong enough yet. Even if all 7 of you meisters got together, it would not be enough. Guy Blog is not your creation. It is the fruit of ancient Terra technology. You cannot stop the destruction of your planet like this. Destruction? Teneb repeated, confused. Bakal explained. He calmly told Teneb his story of what happened and what he saw and heard. The dragon planet, the meeting with Hilder, pandemonium, apostles, Luke's prophecy, and Hilder's plans. Teneb listened silently. The only evidence I have for your claims is the fact that Hilder can use magic. I doubt it matters whether I believe you or not. You will disband the Guy Blog Project regardless, am I correct? Exactly. Bakal said, impressed by Teneb's quick deduction. I am only talking to you for one purpose and one purpose alone. I'm giving you a chance to pass on your future achievements. If you refuse, all your research and your peers will be destroyed. Bakal took a deep breath before continuing. Honestly, there were people just like you about 100 years ago. Sadly, they refused my offer at that time, and they all died without a trace. Your achievements are amazing, so although it's a bit of a shame, I will still need to kill you. Thankfully, since your kind has grown so much, I think I'll only need to wait a few more decades this time around, so it won't be a major loss. Teneb thought about the pros and cons. He decided that Bakal didn't have many reasons for lying. He could easily kill Teneb and the rest of the meisters, including the Guy Blog Project. He finally decided. Alright, but I have 2 conditions. I'm listening, Bakal said. I will die for this plan of yours, Teneb said, but at least let the others live. They will surely be useful to you in the future. That's not possible, Bakal denied. Your entire group has to die gloriously. This is the only way you will be left in the legendary stories and inspire future generations. We need a tragic act for this. Then let at least Kuro live. Teneb compromised. He is the perfect one to pass on our achievements and research to for future generations. Fine. Bakal finally agreed. Also, finally, Jenny, Teneb said, his voice croaking a little bit. She has my child. There's not much time left for the birth. Can you let my child live at least? Bakal looked at him. His eyes were inhumane, but at that moment, Teneb thought he could see some confusion in them. Humans are strange creatures, Bakal said. What's the point in the survival of your child if you die? I cannot understand. I wouldn't worry about that, Teneb said. Let's continue from our previous conversation. If you suddenly kill all the meisters one day and disband the Guy Blog Project, then people will fear your information gathering abilities and won't dare to do anything against you out of fear. So I will play the traitor. Let's just say the Guy Blog Project was a near success, but my sudden betrayal brought it to failure. Then that way people of the future will plan things out fearlessly. Bakal looked to be in a thoughtful thinking. He finally said, I shall let your child live. Anything more? No, that's enough for now. All right, organize this quickly. I will give you 3 days to set everything up, Bakal declared. Bakal flew up into the sky until he stopped being visible. Teneb still stared in the direction Bakal flew. In his mouth was a nearly burnt out cigarette, almost symbolic. It was as lonely as he was now. He was about to make a great sacrifice. Also, his descendants can live in peace from tyranny and have hope. But he would forevermore be known as a traitor to his people. These are the events that followed. Bakal kept his promise. Meister Teneb created fake evidence to make it look like he was a traitor, and then he vanished to somewhere and committed suicide. Meister Volgin fought against Bakal's onslaught using the incomplete guide block, but both were vanquished in the end. Meister Laddie was wary from smoking and overwork, and could not withstand the shock of watching guide block being destroyed. Their last hope, now gone. Meister Laddie coughed up blood and died from shock. Meister Kuro barely escaped with his life, gathered the remains of the guide block, and sealed it in another dimension. He then organized their research for future generations to see. Meister Jenny, after realizing the guide block project failed, gave birth early due to the shock. While in recovery, she found out her lover Teneb was the traitor. She then entrusted her child to Meister Audrus and killed herself. Meister Audrus helped Kuro after the failure and vanished one day with Jenny's child. Meister Elder was not seen since 2 days before Bakal's attack. "500 years later, the Mechanics Revolution erupted in the lands of Empyrean. The people who followed the will of the 7 Meisters developed their achievements over time and gained enough power to fight back against Bakal's tyranny. One day, the Empyreans combined their strengths and attacked Bakal's army at once. As a result, all the cities in Empyrean were burning. Screams ripped through the skies. Bakal was watching the burning city from his palace balcony with a calm expression. There were sounds of explosions and gunfire everywhere. Is it time? He spoke without turning back. You came earlier than I thought, Hilder. It was then that she approached Bakal from behind. You blocked my path for so long, Bakal, she said, but it all ends now. Hilder now stood next to Bakal, looking over the burning city. Is it not too early? Bakal asked, his expression still calm. He had been fighting this war with Hilder for hundreds of years now. There is no one that can face me just yet. You don't think they will see the end of me with those puny machines, do you? Of course not, she replied. Hilder paused for a bit, then continued. How about people from the future? Future? Bakal thought he heard wrong. He glanced at Hilder, then laughed. She was serious. You seem rather impatient, Hilder. He turned to face Hilder. Are they special enough to face me, one of the strongest apostles? Hilder looked into Bakal's eyes for a bit, then spoke. Perhaps. Bakal's eyes glinted. A black aurora suddenly sprouted from all around him. Bakal's bellow shook the land. Hilder looked at the wine glass dropping from his hand expressionlessly. Bakal's shadow grew bigger and bigger and covered the whole area in black. Not even the apostles can deal with me, Bakal declared. He turned into a large dragon and looked down at Hilder. Now I'm really curious as to who these people are. Hilder looked up at the laughing dragon. She was smiling slightly, but Bakal missed it. Bakal's castle was burning. Here he was, facing a group of people. He was already heavily injured and bleeding from various wounds given to him by the mechanics. At most, he could only muster a fraction of his original strength. Behind the group of people, a rift in time was slowly closing. You are not all Empyreans, Bakal said. Let me guess. Are you the people from the future? Tell me, from how long after do you come? Yes, we are, one of the adventurers said. We come from 500 years in the future. 500 years? So I have to wait 500 more years then, Bakal said, huffing as he did. He seemed to be more injured than he expected from this war. At least he's still able to remain standing. Then did you defeat my 3 dragons? We even defeated the apostles transferred to the lands of Arad. The mage replied, smirking. Your sloppy dragons posed no threat to us. Bakal let out a small smile. Congratulations. You passed the basic test, but just out of curiosity, did the apostles die in unfitting areas, playing into Hilder's hands? Let me guess. Sirocco, Lotus, and Derezi? One of the adventurers looked shocked. How do you know the future events? Bakal laughed. His laugh pierced the skies, but if one paid close attention to it, it almost sounds sad. The order is decided by fate. Whether it is on purpose, that I do not know. But humans, Empyreans, Pandemonians, and even Dark Elves, it seems Hilder gathered all those that seem to have potential. Enough talk, the slayer of the group growled. We did not come here for pleasantries, so let's fight. In history, we learned that the Empyreans killed you through the Mechanics Revolution. We are just here to lighten their load a tiny bit. There will be no mercy from us. You learned that the Empyreans killed me? These machines? Bakal said, trying to hold in his laughter. Sadly, although they might weaken me, there's no way they could kill me just yet. Bakal then muttered, facing them all at once did weaken me quite a bit. She took that chance to send these people here, it seems. Not a bad plan, Hilder. Bakal then smiled. Now let me teach you a real history lesson. If I die today, then that had to have been so in your past as well. Otherwise, you would create a paradox. Do you not think so? Therefore, even in your future, it was you that killed me, not the Empyreans. That fact alone does not change. The adventurers looked bewildered for a moment. Realization seemed to dawn on them. Now do you seem to understand? Bakal said. In order for your kind to become strong enough to defeat me and the other apostles, it seems it would have to take another 500 more years. Hilder did not want me hindering her plans for another 500 years. So she had decided to send you back in time to end me. I did not know she had this much control over space and time, but I'm not surprised. Flames were everywhere. Yes, Luke did foresee that I would die in flames, Bakal thought. Hearing your words, perhaps I might just die today. Now is the perfect opportunity after all. It is a bit unfortunate just to die like this, and being unable to test your true strength, Bakal said slowly. Bakal felt his heart stir. The fruits of his efforts were right here in front of him. He carefully looked at each adventurer in turn. After killing him, would these adventurers grow strong enough to defy Hilder and the rest of the apostles? Or are they just mere puppets of Hilder? Bakal imagined he would never know for sure now. Bakal's eyes flashed, and he flapped his wings. The sight brought terror and awe to the adventurer's mind. They all took a step back involuntarily. Ah, Bakal smiled ferociously. There remains a question to be answered. Even though I am greatly weakened, will you be the ones to kill me? In your history, I died today, but who is to say it is you that will kill me? Let's find out for sure, shall we?